Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Chris. I'm coming to you live from Lexington Park Baptist Church. This is PC Studios, and it is July the 3rd, 2024. How are you doing today? Listen, I'm wearing my Impact shirt today. I've been out there. We've been building a stage thanks to Tim Holes and Chris Hall. We built a stage to extend. I'm going to be hanging out with the strong man today, Kenneth Etta. And we are just getting stoked up, getting things ready for Vacation Bible School. The entire building has been transformed. Can't wait till you see it. It is amazing. Totally. Sue Cirilla and her team, has just been doing an amazing job. It just, you got Pam Sherrock's been here all week. You've got, don't tell them, but Joe Travis wants to get credit. But Heather's been the one doing all the work, so I'm just joking if you're out there, Joe. But anyway. A lot of, and they're all hands on deck now. Abbott's are here. I mean, it's awesome. Melissa Cornett's been doing stuff. So anyway, amazing things. Many hands, many things just to make this place be transformed. And I'm telling you, I walk in and I was just blown away. So every day, and we're coming up. So we're preparing for our skits. We're preparing for just the week. We still need a Bible study teacher. To fill in the primary Bible study teacher. We still need that. That's an important role. So if you're out there and you know about that, just step up and give Jill a call. We would appreciate it. So anyway, a lot of things going on today. What I want us to focus on are the days of Elijah. I want us to look at how God works in our lives. And one last thing before I forget, I'll probably say it again at the end though, is Happy 4th of July. Never take freedom for granted. There's a mixed emotions about how a Christian should approach Independence Day, and there are some that say the church should have nothing to do with it. We should never ever mix the two together. I don't agree with that. I think you know that. I do believe it should be used for outreach purposes, but I go beyond that. I think that we should want good government. I think we should want to participate. We should not mix our faith with our patriotism, but I do think that our faith can spur patriotism that's godly. We just need to make sure that we realize that America is not the only nation, and that it's a great nation because of freedom, and freedom comes from Christ, and that we're supposed to be given good government, and our system allows us to strive to have good government, although we don't always have good moral government, and hence there's a lot of problems in our government. To be honest, there's a lot of ungodliness. And so that's where we're at. So celebrate it, though. Celebrate what's good. Celebrate independence. Celebrate freedom. Celebrate this experiment of a nation that was given to us that would allow freedom to prevail, with the good and the bad that comes with that, and to right our wrongs and to make things right, and to become the greatest nation on God's green earth. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on the 4th of July. Happy 4th of July. So let's look at Elijah now. Elijah's mixed in. Remember now, Israel's a totally different beast. So when we look at the nation of Israel in that day, right, that is God's chosen people. And God specifically picked that nation in this time to reveal himself to you and me. It had to bring the Messiah. So that was God's chosen path. So now for us, when we get to this point, we start talking about Elijah's dealing with the king and the queen. He's dealing with the prophets, and he stands up and he says, I'm the only prophet left in all of Israel. Sad day, right? A sad day when that comes. So 1 Kings 18, 16 through 39 is what I'm referring to. I'm not going to read it, but I'm going to tell the story. So here's Elijah. He comes across. God is telling him to go to King Ahab. He's telling him to appoint some kings. He's telling him to do some things, and Elijah knows it's going to stir up some trouble. So here he runs into King Ahab, and King Ahab says, there you are, you troublemaker, the one that's bringing ruin upon all of Israel. So the king, and then Queen Jezebel wants to kill him. The king and queen are against Elijah. They feel he's bad because he's brought all these prophecies, they've come true, and there's no rain in all their land. There's so many things going on, right? So there's so many things going on. There's famine, the people are hurting, there's no water, and so, the king and queen blame Elijah. So Elijah says, no, I'm not the troublemaker, you've caused this, the sin and all this stuff. He goes, hey, I tell you what, why don't you bring your prophets, let them take on me, we'll go up on the top of the mountain, and we'll see whose God consumes the sacrifice first. And this is amazing. Everybody agrees to it, so that's fine with us. Bring it on. So here's Elijah. He goes up to the mountain. This is where 1 Kings 18 picks up, right? There's 400 prophets of Baal and 450 prophetesses of Asher, the female goddess. And so 850 to 1. Elijah is outnumbered 850 to 1 in prophets, plus add the king and queen, 852. But let's go beyond that. Really, nobody's on Elijah's side because he said, I'm the only prophet left. Now, he doesn't know yet that there's 7,000 people in all of the land that have not bowed the knee to Baal. He doesn't know this yet, though. He really feels alone. I want you to get this in your heart as we see this pattern of how God works. Elijah feels alone. Maybe you felt alone. Maybe you felt like the things that you're doing that everybody just thinks, man, you're bringing ruin. You're the troublemaker. You're the problem. You're God, and you take your Christ and get out of here, right? Maybe you felt persecuted. Maybe you felt alone. Maybe you felt outnumbered. God is at work no matter what the numbers are. I want you to hear that. 850 to 1, and Elijah kicked their butts. Now, Elijah didn't do it. God did it. The numbers don't matter. That's what I want you to hear. And in Psalm 20, 20 verse 7 it is, some trust in chariots, some trust in horses, but I will trust in the name of the Lord my God. So Elijah knows this, right? Even though King David's the one that penned those words. Elijah's like, okay, God, I'll take on these prophets. So Elijah, when we find ourselves in a place, how can God work in my life? 1, the numbers don't matter. 2, we need to be led where God leads us. If God leads us to a king, if God leads us to take on false prophets, if God leads us to a school, if God leads us to take a job somewhere, if God leads us to share the gospel to somebody, wherever God leads, we go. And so here's Elijah. I've been led here. I'm ready. And then he listens to what God says, and he does what God says. So if you want to join God, 1, you got to go where God is. 2, you got to do what God says. Will you go where God leads you? Will you do what God says? It may cost you. It may cost you friends. It may cause you personal pain. It may cause turmoil. It may create persecution. I'm not going to tell you everything's going to be okay, but I will tell you that in Elijah and in your life, it would be the same way. 850 to 1. The odds don't matter. This is not playing the lottery, because God's not the lottery. God is greater than any statistic. That's what I want you to hear. Now, moving beyond that point in the story. So Elijah gets up there and he lets them, go ahead, you build your altar. I'm building my altar. He's going to take the 12 stones for the tribes of Israel, right? They build their altar. They put their... they get everything, the wood up there, they get the bull up there, they make the sacrifice. But he's like, no, you can't. You call on your God to create the fire. And I'll do the same. So he lets them do this all the way until the night sacrifice. So they're doing it. He's mocking them. They're cutting themselves. They're trying to burn this thing, and they keep calling up on Baal. They're basically going to the outhouse, and he goes, "What's your God? Is your God's just taking, going to the bathroom? Is your God asleep? Where's your God at?" And then he goes, "Okay, here's what I want you to do now for me. Rebuild this altar." Puts the altar on there, puts the wood on there, gets everything. He says, now listen, remember there's a famine. Remember there's a drought. There is no water. And he says, go get water. And they go get all this water and dump it over it. He goes, now go do it again. First of all, do you know how sacred water would have been? Again, and he goes, now let's do it a third time. This cow, this beast, this sacrifice is saturated. The wood is saturated. The stone is saturated. The trough that he dug around it is totally filled with water. Gallons of water. How wasteful when you consider what they're at. But they did it. And then he calls. He prays. He prays. I get chills thinking about this. And Elijah doesn't do this, but God does. God zaps it like a nuclear blast. Just and it obliterates the sacrifice. The stone is just nothing but ash. The wood is ash. The sacrifice is gone. The water is gone. Everything's gone. And finally, then the people, I think it's verse 39, the Lord our God is God. The Lord our God is God. The Lord is God. And they acknowledge the God of Elijah. But remember, just a few verses earlier, whatever happens, we don't care. They're just looking for entertainment. Don't we do that too? Listen, you can't be looking for entertainment. You got to be joining God. Elijah was on the winning team because Elijah joined God. God led him there, and God told him what to do, and he did it. And it was crazy. He was against the odds, 850 to 1, and he did something. Who would throw water? Not only forget the conditions, who would put water over a sacrifice you're trying to catch on fire? We just don't do that. So, bam, it's gone. Again, 1 Kings 18. But in this great victory, God prevailed and showed himself. And I want to say this to you. When God leads you somewhere and God asks you to do something, if you go there and you obey him, God is with you. Every single one of you, I want you to hear that. God will be with you. No matter what the odds are, no matter how crazy it may seem, if you are being led by God and you are following God and you're obeying God, you're right where you need to be. I want to encourage you to do that. There may be a cost. Now here's what happens, and so we need to put Elijah up on a pedestal because he was a great prophet. He's my favorite prophet. But Elijah, after this, you would think he's on a high, but then he hears Jezebel wants to kill him. So he goes and hides underneath a tree and he starts pouting. Now, he's just had this great victory, right? And all the people just sit there and went, "Hey, the Lord is our God. The Lord's our God." And here's Elijah sulking. How many times maybe have we sulked? I do it. I have a pity party. Somebody leaves and I get very downcast. I'll just be honest. I never get used to that. Somebody quits the church. I just cannot get how we church swap so easily. I really don't. And how you can just, "Oh, I love you, but I'm going over here." Or "Oh yeah, great church. Not anymore for me. I'm going over here." And we do this. We eat our own. Somebody makes a mistake and we just devour each other. I mean, don't get me started. But it's easy to have a pity party. Don't think we can't either. We can have great victories and then to have a pity party. So here's Elijah, though. One of the greatest victories I would say I've in the scriptures, other than the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And he's sulking. He's pouting. So God said, "Okay, Elijah, what are you doing?" Sends an angel of the Lord to him, gives him some supernatural food, says, "Start walking." So he starts walking in the wilderness. He's probably kicking the dirt the whole time, the dust. He's not happy about this. So he goes and he finally comes in front of the mountain. And I don't remember the particular order. You can go read it, but 3 things happen. There's a wind, there's an earthquake, and there's a fire. And it says in each one of these, there's this great wind. God's not in the wind. God's not in the fire. God's not in the earthquake. And then there's just stillness. In the still small moment, God speaks. So Elijah goes to the cave in the mountain. He knows it's God and listens to God's voice, and God speaks to him, and God tells him what to do. And basically, God tells him to anoint a couple people king, but the most important thing that God tells him in this point is, he doesn't really chastise him, but he tells him, "Listen, Elijah, what are you doing? Go back. There are 7,000 people that have not bowed a knee to Baal. Go preach to them. Go tell them." And so I think the moral for us is that, yeah, we're going to have struggles in life, but our job is to join God. And there's a pattern here. When we join God and we are led by God and we listen to God and we obey God, we experience in God. And that is what Elijah did on the mountaintop. We may not have fire come down and consume a sacrifice. We may not be caught in the same scenario that Elijah is. It might be something just simplistic. But when we do it and we're where God wants us to be, great things happen because that's where God's at work. So God wants you just simply to join him. And no matter what, if you get down in the dumps, join God. Just know that God is greater than your circumstance. I mean, Elijah could have avoided all of that. He could have just believed God's not going to let Jezebel kill me. He could have, and if Jezebel does kill me, God's got this. You know, just like he did the confidence up on the mountain, he should have had the confidence down under the tree. And so whether we're on the tree or the mountaintop or wherever we may be, know that God is at work and he's calling us to join him. I'm not here to condemn you if you're having a tough time. Circumstances may be against you. You know, you may have medical problems. You may hey, you don't know what my kids are doing, or you don't know what my husband's done, or you don't what. There could be all kinds of stuff, right? I get it. We live in a messed up world, and God is still at work. Our job is to join God, no matter what's going on around us. There may be an earthquake. There may be a fire. There may be a wind. There may be 850 prophets. There may be a king Ahab and a queen Jezebel. Our job Our job is to join God. And it's not always easy because the world comes at us, right? So please, I encourage you, look at the life of Elijah. Yes, it's a big picture. Yes, it's a enormous thing that happens. It's an amazing thing that happens. But I want you to know, it may be on a smaller scale, but the same thing that God did in Elijah, he wants to do through you and me. And all we've got to do, we have to trust him, we have to obey him, we have to follow him, we have to serve him, we have to join him, and then we experience all that God has in store for us. Hey, have a great weekend, have a great 4th of July, and remember, he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. Hey, God bless you. Have a great weekend. Remember, these two realities. God loves you. So do I. We'll see you Sunday for worship.